I'm Mel Stewart, and this is the SwimSwam podcast. Joining me today is a dear friend. Joining me today is the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of United States Swimming, the greatest national governing body in the history of all sport. Today, we're going to be talking to Tim about the 2024 U.S. Olympic trials and the new location, the new host city. How you doing, Tim?
I am doing great. How are you, sir? It was great to see you a couple of weeks back for our big Make a Splash and foundation dinner. That was fun.
For the uninformed, if you attend any big U.S. swimming event, USA swimming event, and you're a middle-aged man, you always pay attention to the shoes that Tim is wearing, because it's going to be a new shoe, and then the following week you're going to go out and you're going to buy that pair of shoes because you're trying to keep up with the style king. Is it?
And knowing that we're exactly the same age, I appreciate that.
No, literally, I went out. I went with my lovely wife Tiff, and we about 48 hours later, after I got home, she took me to the store, and she's like, "This is what you want," because I took a picture, and I got the shoes.
So, hey, everyone should have a pair of Vans. It's important. And in our age, you need the comfy ones, so that's even better.
No one cares about our shoes. Let's talk about trials. So in terms of SwimSwam's like the NSA, we hear from everybody, we hear all opinions. And so this is my take on the news. I feel like since we've had the trials in Omaha since 2008, everyone loves Omaha, but I would say a little more than 60% are like, it's time for a change. I would say there's a lot of 40%, maybe a little less, are wary. They're concerned about a big venue. And we are going to Lucas Oil Stadium. We're in a football stadium. What would you say to the percentage of people, and that's across swim parents, fans, national teamers, who might have concerns about moving to a big venue like that?
Well, listen, I think first and foremost, the only reason why we're doing this and we're able to do this is because of the incredible success that Omaha and our partners have had in Omaha, right? They set a bar. I'm not sure what it was like back in 2008, what the trepidation was going from this beautiful outdoor venue that was awesome in Long Beach and 10,000 people in Southern California, which is a hotbed for swimming and so forth. And all of a sudden they went to Omaha, Nebraska. So I'm sure there was some trepidation back in those days. And I think it turned out to be just really an exceptional venue and something that really put our NGB on the map and continued to set a course for being the best trials of any NGB without question, and arguably the most impressive swim meet in the world. And that includes the Olympic Games themselves, I think. And I think you've told me, obviously as a gold medalist and many of the national teamers, that this meet is far more anxiety and nervousness and trepidation than, again, even the Olympics when we get there, which is why we do it this way, right? We do it so that you go through that, you make the team, now you're ready to win for Team USA. So I'd say that first and foremost, and I think it's fair. I mean, change, it's kind of like when I got here almost 5 years ago now. Change is inevitable, right? Change is, and you just hope that it's the right change, and it's an ability to move us forward. And I just hope most people realize that everything that we've done here, the intent is for the athletes, the intent is for our members, the intent is to be world class, and that's what we're going to try to do here. So we're pretty excited about it.
Just a quick read and just following the news. We have 3 pools. Is that correct? So we've got our competition pool, we got a warm-up pool, we're going to have a 3rd pool. Is that correct?
Well, it's 2 pools, but the second warm-up pool now has, I think, 6 or 8 full 50-meter lanes and another 6 25-meter lanes. So it's kind of an L shape. It's a massive, more water, which has been great. And that was a request that we had in for last trials. But realistically, being in Indianapolis, right, we're going to be walking distance to IUPUI, and the NAT is obviously easily one of the best facilities we have in the country, one of the most historic facilities we have in the country, and the names on the walls, obviously, very well. So yes, we have more water than we ever have. So when we think about the production of the opportunity, we think about access, warm-up space, one of the things I've said on many occasions that gets us most excited is that, again, 25% of our membership can drive here within 8 hours. That was not achievable in Omaha. So that's a huge opportunity for us to get more people to Indy, get more people to experience what we think is the world's greatest swim meet. And I think that's a huge opportunity for our membership.
In terms of the size of the meet, that's always a question. I know that it's not an exact science. In the background, we're setting the cutoff times, and you set them early, and more young kids make those cutoff times, and we have a massive trials. How is that figured into your calculus for the 2024 trials?
Well, that's a great question. And I can tell you, as someone that sits on the steering committee and listens to just our incredible world-class coaches talk about this, both club coaches and college coaches and Olympic coaches, and obviously Lindsay Mintenko, Matt Barbini and her staff, it's a serious discussion, right? And, it's all over the place. And the good news is, when I think about Matt and the national team, they have every stat, right? How many days before they'll go back to 2008 and they'll have real discussions about, okay, if we do it on these days, it's 33 days until the first day of the Olympic Games. We won this many medals. We had this much trial time. We did this much camp time. So the data is there, and trust me, everyone goes through it. I enjoy listening. As a swim nerd, it's fantastic to listen to. But I think it's going to be larger because we're not going to have two waves. So let me just clarify that. A lot of people have asked us, we had the two waves in Omaha, which was all about COVID. It was great. I think we made it a tremendous event out of something that was very difficult. And Mike Unger and Shayna Ferguson and that staff deserves a ton of credit. But going forward, we're going to go back to one, right? One major trials, which is, I think, what most people want, certainly the coaches want. But I would estimate, 14 to 1,500 athletes is I think what sounds like, what I hear all the time is kind of the sweet spot.
We should take a few steps back. It's and add some context, a little prelude to this run up. When I met you, you sat down and you were on a listening tour. You talked to everybody. You said, "Look, here's my vision. This is what I'm going to accomplish." You shared with me early on. You said, we've been in Omaha a while, and it's time to grow. We're gonna feel some growing pains. We're gonna go for it. And I'm in that camp where it's like, I think it's time to move on as well. But you came in and you had to deal with the situation that you inherited, which was, I was like, you're not going to be a CEO. You're going to be managing. You're going to be managing situations that happened decades in the past. And I'm not going to mention what that is because everybody knows what it is. Then you ran into a pandemic. Then you ran into a trials that you had to manage through a pandemic. And trials is this tentpole event. It's and correct me if I'm wrong, but trials is meaningful for Team USA, for USA Swimming in terms of registration. I feel like it should be a profit center and a launching pad for the next quad. How would you rate what was pulled off at the last trials?
So it has been an area where a surplus has been created for the NGB. So if you go back to 2016, and again, as you know, I don't mind talking numbers because it's all out there in the 1990s and you can take a look at it. So they had a surplus of about $2 million coming out of 2016, and that money gets redistributed to the foundation, to causes, to the national team, to whatever that leadership group determined. That's where the money went back into. Again, we as an organization, as a nonprofit, we're dollar in, dollar out. So whatever we take in goes back to programmatic resources and opportunities from national team to club teams to, you name it, athletes. That's our priority. That's why we're an NGB. In Omaha, I think the feat was remarkable. I think the work that was done to find a way to deliver our promise, which was that every one of those young kids that made their first cut was going to get into that stadium and see that. It was my first time in Omaha, and it was amazing. Lifetime memories. I got to swim with you. You got to coach me. I got to swim with my twins, and they raced me. I mean, I will never forget this. I have it on video. It's the greatest thing. So I was in awe, and I'm just so proud of our staff. I'm thankful to the folks in Omaha. What a great job. Having said that, we lost 7 figures, right? So for a nonprofit NGB, that's a pretty big hurdle, right? That's a major obstacle. But we worked so hard during the pandemic, and credit to the executive team here at USA Swimming, to our directors, to our board of directors, to everybody. We're able to come out of this 5-year quad with a surplus, right? And it had nothing to do with the trials. So looking at a 3-year quad versus a 5-year quad, yeah, there's no doubt that we would love an opportunity to, obviously deliver the world's greatest event, do it at a bigger level, get more people involved, have tremendous success, and quite frankly, have a much better financial result than we did, this past year. No doubt. That is a goal. I don't mind saying it because, again, if we can do that, that gives us an ability to invest even more into a quad that leads up to a domestic Olympic Games, right? And we think like that. We're looking that far out, our board of directors, our executive team, you name it. So those are all important factors. Absolutely.
In terms of the people that are going to listen to this, it's going to be leadership. It's going to be leadership across other sports. It's swim parents who have professional backgrounds and are really curious about how this sport's managed. And it's so what comes to mind is that there was a deficit, but you made it through. And but I think about trials as this tentpole business opportunity for a hard driving nonprofit. And how do you push those bounds? And I know that years ago when you said, we're going to grow, we're going to do this, you had to you put it on the open market. How much are we hemmed in because we're swimming, because we need warm down pools, because we need to be within driving distance, and how valuable is this event to the marketplace?
Again, great question. I think strategically for us, you're right. It's an investment, right? Because again, building the pools, working with our partners to build these, wonderful built-in 50-meter and warm-up pools is not inexpensive, right? That's seven figures in and of itself. So you're betting on the opportunity that by building this Taj Mahal, by building this incredible Super Bowl type, Final Four type of event, right? This tentpole event, to use your terms, that we are going to not only activate the USA Swimming Shield at a much greater level within that region, but that we're going to elevate our brand beyond the borders of this country and beyond. And it's, quite frankly, that's the expectation. When I talk to people and I go meet with FINA or I go meet with other countries and a lot of great people, or I go to World Championships, they're in awe of our trials, right? They can't believe that we can put something like this together for this sport at this level. And if I go back to our partners at NBC who do a wonderful job producing our product, right? And Dan Hicks in this past year, because he was on assignment, to have, Mike Tirico say, I'll do it. And then Mike Tirico to come in and call it with obviously the world's best and Rowdy Gaines. And what I heard was how prepared he was, how serious it was. And I think it came off like that, right? And to have those kind of individuals, those kind of brands, those kind of broadcasters say that this is a priority for us. We're going to put 9 consecutive nights of swimming in primetime television, much like the rest of the world that was unhappy that our finals were in the morning in Tokyo because that was for NBC and USA. That's where we stand, right? So really that's important. That's been there. However, we need to translate that now into becoming a sport that is more inclusive, that more people want to participate in, at all levels, at all ages, at all ethnicities, you name it. We want to be that sport. We want to have everyone know that they can swim. Not only can save your life, which you're part of one of our foundation investors, but it's a lifestyle, right? It's a community. It's a family. And I see this every day because I'm a customer of my own NGB because I have 3 sons that are members of USA Swimming. And I got to tell you, they're not going to be at any national meets anytime soon. God bless them. But watching their love for the sport, watching the community they're part of, watching what they do in high school, watching their grades improve, watching the friendships they're making, that's why we do this, right? So how do we expose as much as possible, right, of what's great about our sport to as many people as possible? Let's do it. Let's go big. Let's go big or go home, right? We've had success. We've seen the success that the previous leadership here has done and executed beautifully. I want to take us to the next level. Our board does, our staff does. Our sport deserves it.
We're going big. We're going to a stadium. For the people out there who are part of the community, they got chlorine in their blood. They're a lot of them are socialized pre-Michael Phelps. And we have a certain view of our sport pre-Michael Phelps, which is relatively small meets, covered dish dinners. And I think part of the concern going to a big venue like this is, are we going to have any egg on our face because we're not going to fill the stands? What's USA Swimming going to do about that? How are you going to fill those stands?
Well, again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning, like the fact that we're putting ourselves in a major location that, by the way, Indianapolis, Indy Sports Corp, right? They hosted the first stadium in world in 2004. Scott Davison, the CEO of One America, who was the chair of the organizing committee then, is still going to be the organizing committee chair here. He's the one that wanted us to help, and he's been a great partner of USA Swimming. You have Arlene McDonald, from the Indiana LSC, which is a phenomenal LSC. That is probably arguably one of the best meet directors in our country. This is their hometown. Dodd Technologies, big sports graphics, all those folks that we take to Omaha to produce these events are based in Indianapolis, right? So these are people that produce Super Bowls and Final Fours and activate the community in the streets. But again, going back to what I said before, if 25% of our membership can now, at a much better, not have to fly, right? Not have to rent a car. They can drive there. There's plenty of hotel space. We're blessed that one of our big partners, Marriott, owns that town, which is fantastic for us. They're all within walking distance of the venues. We're going to be able to put together an event, for the 9 days plus, because that's the new program at the Olympics, that gives everyone a chance to participate and come be part of it. So I think we'll have a much better opportunity to get more people involved. And because we have a capacity up to 30,000 now versus 14 and a half or 15, it doesn't mean we'll get to 30,000 every night. But what if we got to 20 or 25? That's 5 to 10,000 more people per night that we were able to serve in Omaha. Then it's worth it, right? So I don't see any egg on our face whatsoever. We're going to do well. Indy Sports Corp is phenomenal. The partners that we have there, the corporations that are already talking to us, it's exciting. It's going to be good.
So what I'm just listening to you, what I'm hearing from you is, big venue. We can go up to 30,000. But if we can get 20,000 there, that's a success. Are we looking at something in the nonprofit world? Are we looking at something that's like, hey, this is a break-even point. This is a win for us?
I think 20,000 is beyond break-even. But yes, I think that, again, just being inclusive, right? More participation. We have a chance now that the warm-up pool is behind this curtain right there. Maybe we have a warm-up pass, right? Maybe there's a chance you can have a really small ticket price, or maybe it's a contribution to the USA Swimming Foundation. But now you can go watch warm-ups. You can see your kids warm up. You couldn't do that anywhere else, right? You can get to the venue. You can be inside. There's going to be chances to be part of this event and a much greater opportunity than we probably have previously. And again, the city is used to producing world-class events like this. And so, from restaurants to hotels to marketplaces, you name it, it's going to be thoughtful. It's going to be well run. It's going to be accessible to all, and I think that's a great opportunity. And it also happens to be an airport that's easy to get to with more planes and flights. So, again, I just think it's a win-win across the board.
I judge cities by their in terms of swimming and what they do by who contacts us and says, hey, we got this event going on. We want to leverage it. We want to get the word out. Overwhelmingly, Indy Sports Corp they're on it. They call, the email. We've had a long-term relationship. A lot of people might not know this, but it certainly was this way when I was younger. But Indy was called Olympic Campus too. How would you characterize it?
It's funny because the press conference, I think I told the story, or kicked off my part of the story, which is true, by the way, that almost everywhere I go in the world, the first thing they say is, "Oh, you're based in Indianapolis, right?" And I go, "No, actually, we're in Colorado Springs," but I understand why, and that's kind of that same correlation, right? And for me personally, it was the first U.S. Open I ever got to participate in as an athlete was '88 in Indy, right? It was fantastic, and so that is a cathedral in swimming from a swimming perspective. And One America, Scott Davison, who I mentioned, that community. IUPI Health, all those organizations put a lot of money several years ago to ensure that it continues to be the facility it deserves to be for our sport. The renovation was beautiful. Any chance I get there, me, I'll walk over and I'll sneak in and swim. It's just, it's amazing. It's an amazing place. And I think it is probably the most connected to our sport.
I should have known this, and I didn't know my history, but it's, my understanding is we had trials here. This is a 100-year anniversary. The trials were there in 1924. It was the Olympics in Paris in 2024.
That's exactly right. That was part of our pitch. Like, this was the chance to celebrate our sport. And what you can't make that stuff up, right? To say that we can have a centennial celebration of watching USA swimming athletes be nominated to the Olympic team and move on and then compete in the Olympics in Paris 100 years apart. That was certainly a special part of this. There's no doubt.
Our friend Dale Newberger, who's in, if you've been on, if you're a man of a certain age and you've been on the national team, you have known Dale Newberger since the 80s or the 70s. I talked to a lot of our peers and they're like, oh, no, we knew him in the 70s. He's been influential. He's our FINA treasurer. And it feels like I don't know how I should handle this politically. I don't know if you pulled a rabbit out of his hat with Brent Nowicki, but I think that he was a part of the reason why we have Brent Nowicki, who's young and has a lot of energy in the position as the executive director of our international governing body. But now we're back in Indy, and his son Eric is he stadium manager? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think he's director of operations for Lucas Oil Stadium.
How influential was this relationship? Did these conversations start early on, or was Dale just said, "We've got Indy. Indy's happening"?
I think he would have had I asked. I'm sure he would have, but we kept this pretty close to the vest for 3 years. And but once we got a sense that they were committed, I think again, we had several great cities bid for the opportunity, right? 3 NFL stadiums and of course Omaha. I think the Indy Sports Corp got Dale and Eric involved very quickly. And then we made that family connection very fast. But like from our perspective, we tried to keep this under the radar as long as we could. And we had a lot of things to, establish to ensure that we could do it. We could do it at the level that we expect, which again is world class. And we also want to be very fair to some other communities that were phenomenal in terms of the way they hosted, the way they showed and illustrated good faith interest in bringing us. And that was Minneapolis and St. Louis, and of course our friends in Omaha. So it was a very healthy process, a very professional process. But yeah, it's hard not to come back to Indianapolis for all the reasons we've just been discussing.
You are a energetic CEO. You go to these events, and you're on deck. You're in the stands. You're rubbing shoulders with everyone, and you get in the swimming pool. For Tim Hinchey to have a successful trials, what is the Tim Hinchey experience in Indianapolis in 2024?
I think the number one goal is to beat my son Brendan this time, because that was the first time I've ever lost to him in a 50 freestyle. So I'll have to work pretty hard at that, because now they're even faster and bigger and so forth. No, I think the experience is just, first and foremost, I would just love to see as many young athletes and families get there, right, and enjoy it and have a chance to be there, whether it be just come to the marketplace, whether it's to be in a prelim session, a final session, doesn't matter. I just want them to come to the marketplace and see how great our sport is, see how incredible our community is, and then come enjoy the best athletes in the world, right? And they are. And I don't mean just swimmers. They're the best athletes in the world. I used to joke in college all the time, and I think you and I have talked about this, like I could go play a pickup game of basketball. I could hang in. I could shoot around a golf. I could run a mile if I had to. I played baseball, right? Whatever. But none of those guys are going to make one workout in the pool. So I'm going to say we're always the best athletes no matter what. So I think the access is the most important to me. And again, I think this just gives us a chance to do some other things leading up to it. I'm also really excited about the legacy. We made a commitment up front, not after the fact. If we made money, we've made a commitment with Indy Sports Corp at a minimum of $400,000 to make sure that we leave some impactful opportunities to communities that are currently not experiencing a chance to swim every day in Indianapolis. There are some pools and some schools that need some help that can bring their swimming back online, specifically from a very diverse population. Joel Shinnefield, our managing director of sport development, was actually in Indy 2 days ago to go look at the first location that we're going to refurbish and get swimming back online, and swim lessons, and teach lifeguards, and teach coaches. And what's important about that to me and Mel is that rather than wait to after, because everyone has a great legacy idea after, wouldn't it be great that in 2 years from now, we can say, and by the way, since we made this announcement, here's how many kids in this community started to swim, here's how many coaches. So I think this is a great partnership that's at the heart of what we do, especially on the foundation side, but it's part of growing the sport.
This is the way I see Olympic trials. It's sort of like it's like the UK. People can be from all walks of life, all different ethnicities. They can, there can be squabbles and division, but everybody loves the Queen. In the United States swimming, within our family, clubs can be competitive with each other. Coaches might not like each other because of whatever reason. But it might have been swimming's like Disneyland. Everyone's pretty nice, but you understand my point. It seems as though trials is like the queen. Everybody loves trials. That's why I describe it as a tentpole event. It's going back to Omaha. It was so awe-inspiring the first time, and then it was wow. We had that feeling again in 2012. But I don't take it for granted. But I've been to all of them, and then 16 and the most recent one we had, it was great. But I feel like once people get a taste of great 4 or 5 times, they kind of go, that's great, but what else? Do you have any information that you could share about the 2024 trials other than the location that might be something that would get fans excited?
I'm gonna take the fifth on this, I think, for now, because I think it's fun for us to have some surprises, right? And I think that, I would certainly think that you're going to come into that community, and I think no matter where you are in that community during those couple of weeks, you're going to know it's the home of USA Swimming Event, right? You're going to know it, and I'm just telling you that the folks, again, as I've alluded to, that produce Super Bowl events, Final Four events, are interested in producing an event for us. I think it's going to be pretty special.
Well, let's get real personal with this. Then it's I'll say for my personal, you did your most recent Olympic trials, which selfishly for me, because it was smaller, was a unique experience. Was very unique compared to all the trials in Omaha, and I did like that very much. It felt intimate. It was fun, but a part of me wanted a bigger spectacle. That we were hampered by the pandemic. But from a personal standpoint, Olympic trials to me feels like a coming home moment in the sport of swimming. And what I'm hearing from you is that within 8 hours we have this entire reach from our registered athletes and families. And the beauty of trials is in between those races where we're thrilled. You go back, you get a soda, you use the restroom, and then you run into that age group coach that you knew 2 states over that you liked, that you went out and had pizza with that family. To me, that's what the trials experience is like. And it sounds like we're going to have more of that in Indianapolis. Is there something personal for you about trials on that level?
It's interesting because I think that, this was my first go, right? And so it was, to your point, that very intimate. And I think what I enjoyed about it the most was absolutely, going to those cobblestone streets in Omaha, having meals pre, post, after, and just running into so many people. And for me, I got to meet a lot of people, especially a lot of alums, coaches, swimmers that I've never met, that had never met me, that didn't know me, that said, hey, you have a minute? And we just sat and organically, coffee, soda, adult beverage, whatever it was, a lunch, and just getting to meet a whole bunch of great people that have really left a mark on our sport. What was interesting about it, and probably more intimate than maybe the question you were asking, is that a lot of people share with me some really sad stories about how they left the sport of swimming, right? And that was a surprise to me too. And so that has also inspired us to work harder at certain parts of what we do, and especially probably the graduation, if you will, the retirement, if you will, of many of our athletes. And I've learned a lot about some really negative experiences. And to me, it was just overwhelming. It was very emotional, actually. And so that was one thing we learned that I want to make sure it never happens again. So to your point, having this family reunion in a place that more people can come to and hopefully remember the good times about what they've presented is really, really important to us. And I think the more we can throw that net out there, the more that we will catch to come back and be part of it. And we will invite to become back part of our family. And although I was certainly nowhere close to any national cuts, I am a alum of USA Swimming, or at the time USS. And if I could get Rich Thornton to come out of Northern California and bring him, that would be great, right? Or run into some of my old teammates. And I mean, as you know, I try to do that now when I go around the country to tier pros and to Phil 66 nationals or whatever else. I'll reach out to people that I haven't seen and try to get a swim in or whatever. And so I think I think that it might be the special sauce, right? That's something that is unique to our community. And like you said, it doesn't matter what decade, right? People care. And, they certainly have no problem reaching out when we're not doing something they like. So if we can do something they like and celebrate that instead.
That's what here's the thing, that's sort of like the answer that I was hoping for. I know we're way early in the process, and we're going to pester you and say, hey, as we get closer to trials, we want to keep everyone informed, everyone engaged, to be ready to buy those tickets, because we're not going to be at 20,000. We're going to hit 30,000, a lot more. And if we have anything to do with it, we're going to work toward that happening. But what I asked you before, if you have anything you can share, is that comes from a basis of, it seems like every time we're at a trials, some organically things happen all around it. 2008, I think it might have taken USA Swimming by surprise long before you got there, but there were kids out. They were trying to find pools to get workouts in. So they were all over town trying to schedule practices. And then master swimmers who were coming as fans did the same thing. And it was a little disjointed and disorganized, but swimmers make it happen. Swim parents make it happen. USA Swimming started to professionalize that process a little bit more as we moved into the trial situation. But I just feel like that's completely in the Tim Hinchey wheelhouse going into Indy. You've got to have that dialed in. You should be the lord of all the pools in Indianapolis for access, for practice, for age groupers to master swimmers. Will you make that commitment now?
I will make that commitment, because most importantly, as long as you let me prioritize my space first, and you and I get to swim, and Rowdy and Mike Unger comes back, and we all get to swim together like we normally do, we'll do that. No, I think that's exactly right. I also think that you make a good point about Masters. Dawson Hughes, who's a good friend, CEO of Masters, we're already talking about how do we integrate that, right? And again, they officially become part of our USA Swimming Foundation, which was a huge and exciting new announcement that we made obviously several months ago. And now we can truly talk cradle to grave, right? We think about our saving lives and building champions, and now making an impact in your community, to partner with Masters. I mean, I'm a proud card carrying, Masters member, right? That's absolutely right. We have to make sure we connect everybody that just loves the sport. And that's going to be the goal, right? And I think this platform, this community, this marketplace, this stadium, all the things surrounding it, I think will give us a chance to have this ultimate reunion, right? This ultimate festival, this ultimate celebration of our sport. And I think that's certainly the vision, right? And I think we've talked a lot about little different pieces, and no surprise you were getting me there, but it's going to be, I think, the biggest celebration. And I would also say we're going to accept the challenge, and we are going to hopefully have the largest audience, at least for one night, the largest audience that's ever been to a swim meet. And I've heard this story about, like, LA 32 had 40,000 or something, that outdoor pool that's still there by the Coliseum. I've heard that Germany had 25,000 at some Olympics or something. No. All due respect to my friends in 1932, I don't believe you. So we're gonna set the new record, and so that'll certainly be a goal as well.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.